You've heard it so many times before from a variety of different channels. Kathleen Kennedy is finally leaving. Her career at Lucasfilm is over. And yet it never happens. Ever. She just continues to be the leader, the supervisor over Star Wars, destroying the brand, destroying the franchise, along with Indiana Jones, Willow, and everything else she touches. But things are now beginning to change at Disney. For the first time ever in the last few months, I've been reporting that I'm hearing that Kathleen Kennedy will be departing. Now we have some dates that we believe are likely to be those windows in which she will announce her retirement. Would you like to know when those are? Stick around. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another video of excellence here on the WDW Pro channel. Why is it excellent? Well, because you all are here with us, and because X-Wing is joining to talk about something that is rather speculative, rather spicy, but we've got our sources, and we're feeling pretty confident about it overall. X-Wing, welcome back to the channel once more.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
All right, X-Wing, some would say that we are beating a dead horse here, but we think that the fact that the horse has died publicly and the fact that Disney is making big changes behind the scenes suggests that they are ready now to make some seismic shifts. Folks, if you're wondering what we're talking about, big news is breaking. At the time of this video release, I'm not sure how much is public, but it'll gain traction, I'm sure, over this week. But there are big changes happening at Marvel. You're going to be hearing about those during this week, I think, in terms of writers being released from working on the movies and new people brought in. So that's going to be big. We're seeing shows that were destined for Disney Plus being completely canceled as Disney tries to rein in their budgets. The stock, of course, is dropping. And, well, we've got a major problem over there with Lucasfilm and their situation. So, X-Wing, before we even get started on when it is that Kathleen Kennedy might be leaving, let's start off with this latest show that is out, Ahsoka. And I'm curious your take on this because every one of these Star Wars shows has a massive movie-sized budget. Ahsoka is no different. We estimate it's something like between $180 million to $250 million, somewhere in there. And, of course, that's for a very few episodes. It's not, it's not like your typical TV show of yore, where the TV show would have 20, 25 episodes. These are rather short. And so what do you think in terms of, is that budget being spent to hold on to subscribers, gain new subscribers, or do you think that Ahsoka is not doing either of those?
So I think, this show's a little different. It's a little more special because they really, really like Filoni over there. They think he's the savior. They think he's the, the second coming of George Lucas, which I tend to disagree with. What I will say is this show in general has looked a lot more polished. It's looked a lot more clean, certainly a lot more than Kenobi, which was one that we just went through where you had to wonder where the money went because we know it didn't go into the show. You look at the show, you can tell it didn't go into the show. Ahsoka, on the other hand, it's a lot more clean. It's a lot more polished. There are certain things in the show that they are trying to do to really try to pull older fans back in. So you have to remember, Rebels took place quite a while ago. We're at 20 years now for the Clone Wars in terms of an anniversary. So it's tough. It's kind of tough because when we talk about the show, we say, look, Star Wars is dead. That's what a lot of people say. Star Wars is dead. There's no bringing it back. This show does its best to try to do some things that are actually going to bring back some Star Wars fans. But unfortunately, they're a little too far gone at this point. So it really doesn't matter what they do. They're not going to be able to bring him back.
Okay, so I think I agree with you. And so that, to me, we can debate whether or not the show 2 episodes in is successful as a piece of art. I think we would have pros and cons, pluses and negatives. The argument, though, about the financials here, I think, is already predetermined, as you have said. They spent this massive amount of money, and I don't think that it's going to have any kind of significant impact on trying to hold on or gain new subscribers in North America or in Western Europe. Of course, those are their biggest margins in terms of profit off of each and every customer they have. So when those regions have 3 sequential losses in terms of subscriber numbers and you need a flagship title to hold on to, Ahsoka needs to come out of the gate and just wow everybody, amaze everybody. I don't think that it's doing that. It's better than what we've seen, but it's not amazing. And I think that's really the issue.
Yeah. And, there's a possibility that that changes as the show goes on. Maybe they have some, amazing, incredible revelations, and oh my God, all of a sudden Star Wars fans are flocking to the show. I'm not holding my breath for that to happen. I don't think it's going to happen, but there is this great big blue elephant in the room called Thrawn, and Timothy Zahn and everything that he did for the expanded universe is a huge part of the Star Wars fan base that they lost. So it could be interesting. We'll have to see.
Well, let's hope, because if they fail to lift off when they show Thrawn for the first time, and when we have this big reveal, then it's going to be sort of like what Marvel has experienced with the Kang dynasty, right? Where Kang came out and nobody got real excited, and well, that just wiped out all the enthusiasm for their phases. And you can imagine that if the same had happened for Thanos, then phase 2 and phase 3 of the MCU would have floundered, and that's what's at stake here with Thrawn. Thrawn needs to be a big baddie that has real implications, and I think that it's necessary for them to give some kind of, idea or hope to Star Wars fans that it may explain the sequel trilogy sufficient that people can at least stomach it to some degree. I have no idea how they'll do that, but,
It's probably what it's going to be. Thrawn will likely be the reason why the First Order's created. Even tying him anywhere near the sequels is going to ruin it for me, unfortunately.
And that is the problem, right? Because people want to follow the Thrawn that they know from the novels. Yeah. They don't want to follow the Thrawn that gently, softly retcons the backstory for the sequel trilogy, but ultimately makes it even more canonized. That's not what people want. But one thing that people do want, X-Wing, is, for so long, there have been so many rumors that Kathleen Kennedy would be leaving. And so for years and years, I mean, I've been doing this now, not on this channel, but, doing the journalism side of this for 6-7 years. And for all of those years, up until about 3 or 4 months ago, I have never reported that Kathleen Kennedy was going to be leaving Lucasfilm, even to the point that I was giving our friend over at Overlord DVD, Doomcock, the information that Kathleen Kennedy was not leaving when she was doing her prior contract negotiations. Of course, that came to be true. But now, in the last 3 or 4 months, we have begun to hear that things are changing dramatically at Lucasfilm. I could say some of the sources, and people would know some of the sources, and, well, many others they would not. But we think that things are getting really, really tough at Disney, especially when their efforts in the Star Wars region of their franchises, it's not pulling the return on investment they need. And Kathleen Kennedy, of course, she's above the 70-year mark now. So is her husband. They probably are at that point where it's time to celebrate, right? Get their various lifetime achievement awards and their, what would you say, their celebratory executive producer roles that get them on the carpet, but they have to do little else. Yep. And so I think that we're getting ready to go into the, shall we say, the pre-retirement fanfare stage of Kathleen Kennedy's career.
Oh, wouldn't that be nice?
Yes, but what's making this tricky is the Hollywood strike. Yeah. Because, and here's why, and this may surprise you, X-Wing. I mean, this is not something the average person, although you're not average, I'm not saying that, but it's not something that those out there watching might think of. The reason that the Hollywood strike could have an impact on when Kathleen Kennedy's retirement announcement happens and when she actually retires is she wants this to be timed so that she gets to hit the award shows and get all of those lifetime achievements and be pulled up on the theater, be presented as a woman who set the bar, who broke the glass ceiling of Hollywood. And so we've got some dates that we think she may announce, but all of this can change based on the strike. X-Wing, does that strike you as odd that Kathleen Kennedy is timing this around when she can get little trophies on TV?
No, not at all. So what I find funny is that I know that we're all going to watch that. We're going to watch the fanfare, the trumpets as she's sashayed through the valley in her silks in front of everyone. Look at what I did. I'm Kathleen Kennedy. Hear me roar. But it's funny, if you're somebody who's actually followed anything going along with Disney, anything going along with Star Wars, which was really her baby, Star Wars and Indiana Jones, there's nothing to celebrate here. There's nothing to celebrate. So as we watch these, I'm going to find it comical. Personally, I can't wait. Just from my perspective, it can't happen soon enough. Sashay her out the door, garb her in fine furs, and yes, champagne, everything you want. I don't care. Just so long as you're heading that direction, I'm happy.
Well, if she had left after her first 2 movies that she did for Disney Star Wars, I think all of us would say she had been phenomenally successful. Now, some people don't like The Force Awakens, but you know, you could still say financially they were just knocking it out of the park.
Yeah.
It's The Last Jedi began the downfall, and it really did well in dropping expectations, and that just continued and continued. But let's get into these dates, X-Wing. So the first thing we're being told is that, and we don't know if this is going to come to fruition now because of what we just mentioned, right? So we have to preface that because we don't know what happens with the Hollywood strike. But one potential time frame that we're looking at is the mid to late October of this year. We're being told has a potentiality for her to make that announcement. It would be announced internally to Lucasfilm, is what we're told. Of course, folks, we are in rumor and speculation territory here. But I will say that we've got a reason for believing that. It's been told to us. I cannot say what that is for fear that that a source could be outed. But it seems to be plausible at this point that they do have a calendar date set in October if they wanted to make the announcement. We'll have to see. X-Wing, what would be the response, do you think, of the mainstream media versus the audience if she were to make that announcement? Now, we're not, and by the way, let me say this too. I want to be very careful. We're not saying she would retire in October. We think she'll serve out her contract probably, but that contract ends next year in Q3. But anyway, what do you think the response would be in the mainstream versus the audience?
I think pretty much everybody would be singing Yub Nub, believe it or not. So you would have the mainstream narrative that would be, like we have said, singing high praise about this amazing, strong woman in Hollywood who overcame all the obstacles to create a media giant in Disney. And then on the other side, you have all the people who actually know what happened singing Yub Nub because they're like, finally, ding dong, the witch is dead. It's over. But on the other hand, anxiously awaiting to hear who's going to be filling the role.
Yeah, and I think that you make a great point there because that could go sideways very quickly. So I'm not here to do a video. I'm not here to black pill anybody. I'm also not here to white pill you, right? I'm not here to tell you folks that when Kathleen Kennedy leaves, everything goes to hunky-dory. I don't think that's true. No. I mean, whoever were to step in her shoes, they are going into a hive of villainy when it comes to Lucasfilm. We think that studio is just filled with toxicity and people who don't like the average normal person out there. X-Wing, one of the reasons beyond what we know in terms of scheduling on this, one of the reasons that we think this late October of this year could have some credence, although it may have been moved due to the strike. But one of the reasons we think it has credence is we think that whenever this announcement comes, they're not going to do it during one of their big shows on Disney Plus because that could alter the ratings. It could cause people to tune in, tune out, etc. So they really don't want to do that. They want to rock the boat when there's nothing on the oceans beside them, which also lends, I guess, to the second date that we're hearing that it could be pushed back to and may have already been pushed back to. We just don't know, which would be the very end of this year. We're talking about around the holidays, and that would be potentially to kind of quell the celebration, they think, of people like you and me who would say, well, it's about time. But at the same time, it could be early enough that they could get her into these award ceremonies, even if they're delayed a little bit due to the strike. So it's still award season, but also they get to bury the bad news with the holidays, which is pretty common. Any thoughts on the likelihood you think of Kathleen Kennedy's retirement announcement happening this year?
So my only thought is the only thing I would say that would detract from that being a possibility is that what I believe her crowning achievement for Star Wars is going to be, at least for the Disney Plus side, is Acolyte.
Yes.
Acolyte's coming. And that is, that is so just like her crowning achievement of femininity and diversity. It's going to be incredible to watch. And I think that she's still going to want to be around when that premieres to see what happens, which is probably not a great idea. If I had to guess, it's probably a better idea to get out of there as soon as possible. But that's the only thing that gives me pause.
Well, we do think that she'll serve out the contract. So the announcement is separate from when she actually leaves.
Yeah.
But let me give you a counter argument on the X-Wing. What if she comes out with the retirement at the end of the year? And what if she lines up all of those awards? She gets the Oscars, she goes to the Academy, everything, right? She gets all of her awards. We're talking about award season, which is what, December, January, February-ish. And then the Acolyte hits, maybe late Q1, maybe early Q2, sometime around there. Depends again on the strike because the studios are trying to lengthen out the cadence of content. But she could go into those awards, as the woman who broke the ceiling, and then boom, Ahsoka, this extraordinary feminine series of Star Wars. The Force is really female comes out following that. It's her crowning achievement, and then she can ride off into the sunset and get an executive producer credit for the Rey movie. Any thoughts on that? Maybe that working out for her?
Yeah, I mean, that sounds probably the most plausible. If I had to guess, we don't really know. So if she finishes out her contract, she'd be leaving in what then? October of next year, third quarter.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, that's when Acolyte's slated. So yeah, I guess that makes sense.
All right. So X-Wing, let's talk about the third scenario, which I'm starting to think may be the most likely, but not because I think that it was the one that Disney prefers or even Bob Iger prefers. I think that Bob Iger tried to maximize the damage to Kathleen Kennedy with the premiere of Indiana Jones: The Dial of Destiny. She went into the theater with the announcement that the Galactic Star Cruiser was closing. She came out to the news that Willow had been taken off Disney Plus. Bob Iger is there. That had to have been coordinated. So I don't think that there's a lot of love between Bob Iger and Kathleen Kennedy.
Yeah.
So I don't think that this next scenario is the one that he would like. But there is the scenario that they wait all the way until her contract is getting ready to end in October of next year. They finish up the Acolyte series, and then they make the announcement, and she gets into the next year, right? Not this year, but the next year's awards, circuit. And X-Wing, the reason that this one, I think, is beginning to gain more traction, it doesn't have anything to do with whether or not Disney dislikes her. It doesn't have anything to do with whether Bob Iger thinks, she needs to go. It's the Hollywood strike. The longer the Hollywood strike goes on, the less likely it is that Kathleen Kennedy has to make any kind of announcement because there's nothing happening.
Everything's on hold. Yeah.
Exactly. And why would Disney then want to go and try to make negotiations with somebody who may be, part of SAG-AFTRA, for example, to come take the place of Kathleen Kennedy? Why are they going to want to do those kind of negotiations and get those kind of contracts set up when they don't know when they'll be able to produce content again? And therefore, they could be signing somebody to pay them lots of money to sit. They're already paying Kathleen Kennedy to sit. So that's why there's uncertainties, because there's uncertainty on when this Hollywood strike wraps up. But X-Wing, final thoughts on Kathleen Kennedy, her retirement announcement, and I guess the potential this goes actually on until next year, Q3.
Well, at least we're getting closer. That's my first thought. Every day that goes by, we get a little bit closer. But really, other than that, I've gotten to the point where I'm sick of talking about Kathleen Kennedy. I'm sick of always wondering, like, when's she gonna go? Honestly, because we've beat ourselves over the head for so long, trying. We get a little bit of hope here, a little bit of hope there. Oh, it turns out it's nothing. Oh, a little bit of hope over here. I'm just ready for it to be over. And I'm excited at the prospect of a change for good. I'm less horrified now at the prospect of a change for the worse, because to be honest with you, they've been kind of headed down that road for a while anyway. So I'm trying not to get my hopes up that anything is going to be amazing. I don't think bells are going to toll.
Let me give you a theory that I've got about why people are so, people like you and I are so concentrated or have been on Kathleen Kennedy and her leaving, because there are those out there who would claim that we are hyper obsessed with the success of a woman who broke the glass ceiling and she deserves to be there. And we just don't like what she's done with Star Wars, that she's modernized it and all that. But I've got a theory for what it is that drives her to be such a force of dislike and distrust when it comes to just general audiences. And here's my thought on this. Imagine that you gave someone who should know how to take care of a very nice automobile. Imagine that you gave them a one-of-a-kind automobile that perhaps it was made in the 50s or the 40s, but it is pristine, right? It's like something you would see out of American Graffiti, for example. Yep. And there's none like it in the world. And imagine that after just a year or two of that person owning the vehicle, that they have essentially just destroyed it. And then not only did they destroy it, but they also came and put in these jarring modern automobile pieces that don't
fit
on it.
Spoiler on it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you just look and you think, the world is not fair that this person has destroyed this car that was a one-of-a-kind and a beautiful thing. And I think that's what's happened. I think that's why people dislike what Kathleen Kennedy has done so much, is because she took the mythos that George Lucas had created that, you know, we don't really have American mythos, perhaps, because the rest of the world has existed so much longer than the American, you know, experiment. But George Lucas had made something that was distinctly American with Star Wars, and it was this mythological thing that people loved, and they wanted it to be taken care of. And Kathleen Kennedy was given the stewardship of something that so many loved. And she doesn't seem to love it the way they do. And she wanted to do what we just talked about, and it turned it into something garish and inappropriate. And I think that is the deeper lesson here, is that we're not just talking about a little sci-fi thing. We're not just talking about you know, little characters and action figures. We're talking about what to make of it when somebody comes in and decimates and destroys something that was really worthwhile and had merit, and then nothing happens to them for doing it. They get rewarded and rewarded and rewarded. And I think that is the injustice that people really resent about Kathleen Kennedy. So am I off on that, X-Wing?
That was incredibly well put. I'll be honest with you, man. Yeah, the analogy of you know, a classic car just being beautiful in its own right, in its own way, because it is what it is. And then somebody coming in and throwing a bunch of, you know, spoilers and spinners and curb feelers and stuff on it and saying, we're just updating it to what modern people like. Well, the beauty isn't in that. It's what it was. It's what it originally was when it was created. That is the beauty of it. And yeah, you're dead on with that.
And then the injustice of, she gets to keep the car. She just keeps getting to keep the car, and it keeps getting worse. You know, it's been painted pink, and it's just it's no good. But anyway, I think that's why people are so looking forward to one day her being gone. It's that idea of finally some justice for doing this to the narrative. But folks, we're here to tell you, if you came to this channel thinking that Kathleen Kennedy is going to be fired and walked out of Lucasfilm and humiliated, you are on the wrong channel, because we are realists here. Kathleen Kennedy will retire. She will get the accolades. The just desserts that Kathleen Kennedy has already received that were the humiliation. It was Indiana Jones, the Dial of Destiny. That was the coup de grace, where there's nothing worse that can happen to her than to see that be the full circle, starting off with Raiders, ending with Dial, and it being the absolute flop that it was. X-Wing, thank you so much for being here. Tell folks where they can find you on this great, big, beautiful web.
Channel name is X-Wing. Keep trying to talk about Star Wars, but it's been a little rough lately, as you can tell. So yeah, we're trying to keep a positive attitude, you know, engage in conversation, try to find, if we can, you know, some good things here and there, and just be as honest as we possibly can.
That's right, folks. And remember, as Star Wars fans often say, there's always a new hope. Well, folks, if you like content like this, consider clicking the like button, share, subscribe, and when you click it, you stick it to the algorithms. It's the notification bell. The conversation here has come to a close, but the commentary begins. Drop a comment down below. We covet your comments. We care about what you think. And don't forget, folks, that if you'd like to become a member of the channel, it's just the price of a soda, and you can gain access to all kinds of exclusive content behind the scenes. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.
I just found out how to get WDW Pro's information, where he gets his sources. I can't believe he uses Wilton! What? We got a job to do. It's easy to hack into WDW Pro's computer.
You're kidding me. That's awesome. You know any other stuff?
Yeah, just Jonas Campbell told me.
Sweet.
Said Pro underpaid him or something.
A few minutes later.
There. Oh, awesome. Whatever. All I gotta do is hack into this thing. It's gonna be so easy.
Yeah, this isn't a hack.
Grab this picture over here.
Leave it to me.
Oh, no. Oh, Wilson.
Job done. What?
No, all we had to do was use the picture because he uses Face Unlock. Now we gotta go to thatpartplace.com and sub to him and his team on YouTube.
Oh, well, I already did that because I'm smart.